Imagine that you're all, sitting around a round table. You could consider me King Arthur if you wish, and you're all going to be like offering your points, your point of view about what we're going to be talking about, which is the formation of a coalition of think tanks to craft freedom-based international agreements on many different things. But and why I say many different things is that because it seems to me from my work in climate and the environment and looking for, free market solutions there, that the solution to poverty and climate and a lot of war and migration and human trafficking issues and women's liberation and all kinds of things is more freedom. So the freedom is the essential solution that we have to place at the center of our policy, whether it's climate policy or anything else. A lot of people say we need to place women or equality or something like that. Well, if you put freedom at the center, then it makes women at the center. It makes equality at the center. It makes all the good things that you want to have come out of it become at the center, right? Because that's what freedom is all about: empowering people. So, to back up just a little bit about the discussion that we've had. The Grace Richardson Fund tries to pioneer new free market policy solutions. And, we pointed out, for the benefit of those who weren't here in the morning, we pointed out, starting more publicly in 2016, we said, look, there's been a huge shift that's been going on in the marketplace between 2011 and 2015. Wind and solar both crossed the line of being cheaper than fossil fuels in the best sited places. And when that happens, it means that the policy that has supported them needs to change. That it's out of date, and what you need to support things that are profitable and competitive is, first of all, you need to let them compete. And number two, the tax rates on those profits are a new policy lever that you can pull. So using supply side tax cuts and open market competition in combination are really powerful policy paradigms that you can put together. However, these things need to be thought through. They need to be innovated because nobody's really thought to apply them this way. It's an innovation in free market environmentalism to think this way. In order to think these things through, Grace Richardson Fund went through a process of policy development where we used, what's called charrette process, essentially expert working groups of thinkers and scholars to think about these questions and look at what kind of instruments would work. If the problem is, how to open up markets around the world quickly, one of the things that we need to do is think strategically about what historically has worked in the past in terms of opening up markets quickly. One of the two examples that I raised in the morning were the formation of the United States with, the Hamilton Plan offered a carrot for states to sign up with the Constitution. And that carrot was that the federal government would pick up the state debts and they would become debts of the federal government, which encouraged the states to sign on to the Constitution. And also all the investors in that bad debt suddenly became friends of the United States. So that's an example of a carrot that's used to create a big free market. The other example is the formation of the European Common Market. And the carrot that was used there was Marshall Plan grants. Marshall Plan grants were given out. You had to join the OEEC, the Organization of European Economic Cooperation, which means that you had to sign up for dropping your internal trade barriers, or your between the countries. So that's another example of using a carrot to convince nations to join a free market. So one of the questions we've asked is, what's a better carrot than government-to-government foreign aid? And possibly you could think about reciprocal supply-side tax cuts. So we discussed in the morning different kinds of instruments that you could use. though not. I only gave one example, which I'll give again, which is the innovation acceleration bond loans and savings accounts. They used to be called clean asset bonds. I actually stepped away from the word clean on the advice of Nick Loris in the back, because clean is apparently a word that turns off some conservatives. Who knew? But and I think he had a point about that, and so we look at we're trying to look at supply side tax cuts that accelerate innovation, and that accelerate the opening up of markets. Those are the incentivization. So these are technology neutral tax exempt bonds and loans, and they are something that can be very useful applied to all kinds of technologies, and you're not picking any kind of technology over any other kind of technology. They apply to oil and gas, wind, solar, nuclear, geothermal, everything. What you are applying them to is the projects that employ the best available control technologies in that technology group, right? So you're looking at the negative externalities of oil and gas and coal versus the negative externalities of wind and solar. You're looking at things like hydrocarbon emissions on one hand, but you're also looking at bird kills and your land area and things like that. So you're really not just carbon centric. You're looking at all the negative externalities, because if you only concentrate on carbon, you're going to end up increasing the other negative externalities. So that's the idea, and these can be used in an international context because they're very democratic. Basically, in terms of an international agreement, there would be, you could use these kinds of things in such that any nation that signed up would have to open up their markets, but what they would get in return would be that banks and mutual funds and entrepreneurs could raise this kind of capital on a tax advantage basis in all the participating nations. They would fund their funds and then be able to reinvest and deploy those funds around the world in all the participating nations, right? So you would suddenly have vast international tax advantage capital flows coming to any nation that signed up to the general idea of opening up their markets for these investments. So it's a free market tool. Now, I could say more about these than I did in the morning, but I'll stop the explanation on that there. But I will say one other thing, and that is that there is already an international agreement that is tending in the free market direction on climate. And that is the Agreement on Climate Change, Trade, and Sustainability, which is a agreement between just 6 nations now. It's a free trade agreement for environmentally beneficial goods and services that removes the tariffs on those things. So very good that some climatistas are thinking about free trade and lowering tariffs. Now, the nations involved are New Zealand, Iceland, Costa Rica, Norway, Switzerland, and Fiji. Think tanks, we've been in touch with think tanks from 5 of those nations, who are interested in developing this ACTS agreement into a free ACTS, which would be a more fully free market agreement that incorporates some of these ideas about opening up markets to competition. And in any event, there's a huge opportunity for this kind of thing to, sort of set a gold standard of what a free market environmentalist international agreement should look like, and how it would be, it would be a model that could be incorporated into aspects of, say, the Paris Accord, the Article 6 market mechanism. You say, nations could do something like this instead of all the other, government foolishness that is sometimes baked into things like the Green New Deal and the Inflation Reduction Act and, the Paris Accord.